You know and I know everything happens in South Florida. And if it weren't for things like the railroad, there might not be a South Florida. We've come a long way since the first rail line harnessed mules to pull a cartload of cotton from Tallahassee to the Gulf of Mexico about 1834. That Tallahassee-St. Mark's Railroad was the first rail line in Florida and one of the first in the nation. The 25 miles of wooden rails allowed the cotton growers of North Florida to deliver their goods to ocean-going ships headed to England. The state's first steam-powered train initially ran along 9 miles of track from St. Joseph to White City in the Panhandle in 1836. Fast forward to 1878, when Standard Oil Company co-founder Henry Morrison Flagler made his way through the Florida wilderness to eventually tame it. In 1894, the Flaglers settled in what is now West Palm Beach. He built roads, 2 luxury hotels, the Royal Ponciana and the Breakers, and his mansion, called Whitehall, which is now the Flagler Museum. But what's the point of having a tropical retreat if there's no way to get there by the patchwork of roads in place at the time? To open up Florida to the rest of the country, Flagler would build a railroad from Jacksonville to Key West.
Flagler's legacy is still here. Without Henry Flagler and his railroad, we wouldn't have the Miami that we have today.
Flagler bought up small railroads and merged them into the Florida East Coast Railway, steadily extending the service south. As many as 4,000 workers at a time toiled on the railroad for $1.50 a day. More than 100 of them died. Legend has it, Julia Tuttle offered Flagler a basket of fruit to extend his railroad to Miami. She also gave him large tracts of land, and he was credited with putting Miami on the map. Flagler's next destination was Key West, a major refueling port for ships. He conducted the most ambitious engineering feat of its time, building 128 miles of track over a series of bridges through the Keys beginning in 1905. And the first overseas railroad train arrived in Key West in January 1912. Flagler died in 1913, and his railroad ran off the tracks, figuratively, because of the Great Depression in the 30s. And literally, because of the 1935 Labor Day hurricane, which wiped out much of the track in the Keys. But the story does not end there. A lot of that history can still be seen at the Gold Coast Railroad Museum, southwest of Miami.
We have about a collection of 40 different freight and passenger cars from all different eras and different styles, streamlined, heavyweights, and even some more modern bi-level cars. Our pride and joy is the Ferdinand Magellan, U.S. car number 1 that was used by 4 presidents. And we have that on display.
You may not recognize this bulletproof precursor to Air Force One, but it was used by Presidents Franklin D. Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and even Ronald Reagan. It is also the platform on which this infamously incorrect picture was taken of President Truman holding up the headline, wrongly declaring him a loser.
This door is modeled after a bank vault. The door alone weighs 1,500 pounds. You can see by the heft of the door and the locks that are on the door that the security was key to protecting the president.
United States rail car number 1 had a dining room, sitting room, 4 bedrooms, a bathroom, a wheelchair elevator for President Roosevelt, armor plating, 3-inch thick glass, and 2 escape hatches. It was pretty presidential and lavish for the Great Depression. In 2014, Florida pulled ahead of New York as the 3rd most populated state, putting more pressure on our transportation systems. Amtrak's Silver Meteor and Silver Star still roll through Florida since the 1970s, but the Silver Palm and Champion do not. Miami-Dade rolled out Metro Rail in 1984, followed by Miami's Metro Mover Loop in 1986. Tri-Rail has steadily expanded service between Miami and West Palm Beach since it began in 1989, and many see bullet trains as the future of rail travel. But with all the attractive, affordable transportation alternatives available to us these days, will the sun set on the railroad?
Railroads aren't going to go away anytime soon. There's going to be a need for them always, whether it's freight or passenger service or what have you. It's something that we need to have and will always have. I can't envision railroads ever going away and being replaced by anything. It's still a very economical way to travel as far as freight goes and passenger service too.
With another chapter of South Florida's dubious history, I'm Wayne Roustan for the Sun Sentinel.